Thank you very, very much. Here, Michelle. Michelle, you want to pass it to me? Okay.
On your desk, I just put Steve's credit card number.
Awesome. Thank you. Hopefully, Queen will come in the middle and she'll take it. Okay. Is that
Did he drive or he flew?
Oh, this time they
Good evening. 1 second. How are we all doing today? Wonderful, huh? I forgot to bring a postcard. I think there's one here. Okay, opening up the text. We got an excellent class planned for tonight, God willing. But first, I just have to say something very important. Thank you to all the volunteers. We're here since 4 o'clock. We are right matching campaign. So if you're watching this and classes that you get to see here at Chabad, we are in the middle of our 36-hour campaign to fund the beautiful work we're doing here to continue giving people the opportunity to identify proudly, to identify soulfully, to identify boldly, to keep on all the impact that we're having in the community. If you go to charity.com/proud, which I'm posting right here right now. / make a difference?
That's my team.
Oh, / make a difference. If you go to charity.com/proud/ nothing, make a difference. You can be part of it. So thank you. Who are we holding? Shalom Gail, Shalom Ravit, Shalom. Someone went on so early tonight. I love it. Shalom Carmen. I don't even have the flyer. The flyers are in the front. But, Sherry, look at that. I didn't even see you walk in. What a surprise. I didn't even see you walk in. Beautiful. You want to get Marsha, guys, do you a favor? On the front desk, there's like some of the flyers for the campaign. I wanted to stick into the camera's face. They should the other desk. Yeah. Not Karina's desk, on the lobby desk. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shehakol nihiyeh b'dvaro. Okay.
Might get like Australian currency.
Yeah.
And we'll have to convert.
If you donate in Australian currency, I'm pretty sure that the website takes Australian currency, actually. Charity is like an international website. You can try it later if you want. Here we go. Thank you. Here we go. So you can see this beautiful picture of a Mother Lady Shabbos candles. That's the mother and daughter bonding Lady Shabbos candles at a recent bar mitzvah. Identify proudly. We are smack in the middle. We're like at 40%, 38%, which is okay, but it's not great. Marsha says we need more. Yeah.
It's terrible. Please
I wouldn't say it's terrible, but it's not terrible. No, it's not terrible. It's not terrible. It's not where I want to be either. That's true. So if you're watching and you want me to be where we want to be, you can go to charity.com/proud. Okay, that's the sponsored announcement for tonight. Good evening, Orly, and good evening, Michael. I hope you're feeling good and we're recovering very nicely. Shalom, Ken, watching us from Colorado. Shalom Tov. Hello, Shira. Thank you for your donation earlier today. And then calling back. Shira gets credit because she called back to make her donation bigger. See, that's the spirit. And Shira, you weren't the only one to do that to me today. 2 people called after they made a donation, called back and said, you know what, I'm going to give more. So you can do that too. So if you already donated, you can do that too. And hello, Lori, and hello, Keith. Good evening. I hope there's more people watching on Chabad.org. Okay, I have an excellent class, a very non-humble, non-biased opinion that really in some ways won't be anything new, meaning most of the stories we'll talk about today, you know, but in context, when you see the systematic structure of these stories, you're going to have a whole new appreciation for literally a story that you've always known, but you've never knew. Like sometimes you know all these facts, and until you connect the dots and you create a line, all of a sudden you realize, well, there's another narrative going on in the many narratives. Usually, how do we learn biblical stories? As independent, isolated stories. So we know one story, we know a second story, and a third story, and each story is worthy of discussion. But when you're able to see the entirety of all of the stories, literally spanning across many, 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 many chapters, across hundreds of years of history, it's very eye-opening. And to me personally, I personally am very inspired, and I find very touching this shift. It's a slow shift. It's a slow transition that takes place over the course of the story of the brothers in the Bible. I didn't post this on my own page. /proud. Okay, so I'm going to start from the very beginning. What's the point of God giving us the Torah, and why does God tell us the stories in the Torah? The word Torah is the same word as Hora, teacher, a Mora, right? Went to school, right? Mora Randy. So you have Moras. A Mora means a teacher. Torah is a teacher. Torah is not just meant to be a storybook, although there's some very, very fascinating stories in the Torah. The Torah is meant to be a book of teachings, how we are meant to live our lives. One of the greatest challenges many people have in living their lives is the ability to truly love and truly be happy for another person. In Yiddish, we call it tefargin. Tefargin is a Yiddish word. It means to be happy for someone else's success. Tefargin, many people, even if they're nice and they're generous and they're kind and they give charity and they do beautiful things, they donate to our end of the year matching campaign, but there's still a certain level of jealousy when they see someone else being more successful than them. Or there's a certain competitiveness, a certain jealousy, and it's hard for them to see someone else doing well. The ability, the emotional capacity to be happy for someone else's success, to, as we say in Yiddish, to vergin sich, to be happy for him that he has something I don't have. It's a very, very difficult trait for some people to acquire, something very important to acquire. You know where some people, not everyone, hello Stephanie watching from Illinois, where some people struggle the most with this is where it's closest, with family, between brothers, between sisters. If I see a random stranger driving a car fancier than mine, okay, good for him. He has more money than me. He can afford a Tesla. I don't know, whatever the latest version is. Today they say they're getting cheap. Okay, that guy that I used to go to school with, so whatever, and he got a job at some fancy firm, and now he's making a lot of money. It doesn't hurt as much. It doesn't rub as much. But sometimes when you see someone you're really close to, you see your brother, and he's doing better than you, and your brother is successful and you're not, some people have, we call it sibling rivalry. There's a word for it. You know what there's a word for it? Because it's pretty common. Saying it exists. It exists. To be able to have a happiness for the success of your brother, for the blessings of your brother, it's an emotional challenge that many people struggle with. It's actually part of the human nature a little bit, because human beings by nature are selfish and we want to take care of ourselves. And it's hard for many of us to see someone else doing better than us, especially if it's someone else that's close to us. Especially. And therefore, what we are going to do tonight, good evening everyone, is we're going to go through the stories of brothers in the Bible. We are going to cover, I believe, every single written interaction between brothers in the Bible. Now, obviously, there's more brother, but there's nothing that happens. I believe that we are going to go through every brotherly interaction. And you are going to see a very clear trajectory. I don't know if that's the right word, because it's not the right word. A very clear evolution, not a pattern. It's not a pattern. Pattern is repetition. It's not a pattern at all. It's an evolution. An evolution of how brothers learn to interact and to care and to be closer to each other. Okay? So let's go through it. There's a lot of text for tonight. So if you're watching my personal page, good for you. You'll be able to see more. So I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to be starting at the very beginning of the first story of brothers. Who are the very first brothers in the Bible? Cain and Abel. You all knew that. Again, you know all these stories, by the way. So the first story of Cain and Abel is where Cain and Abel both bring offerings to Hashem. And we've done a class on this not too long ago. And they don't want to spend too long on the particular story, why Cain's offering was less accepted by God, even though it was a fancier. He gave the cheap quality of it. He gave flax. Abel gave sheep, but he gave the best of his sheep. We have a whole class on this not too long ago. Look at chapter 4, verse number 5. So God accepts the offering of Abel or Hevel, but to Cain and to his offering he did not turn. And it annoyed Cain exceedingly, and his countenance fell. So Cain is jealous of the fact that his brother's offering is accepted by God and Gesundheit, and his offering is not accepted by God, right? Here's the very first quote-unquote sibling rivalry of the Torah, the very first time that we see a brother who is explicitly, the Torah is telling us, is jealous of his brother's success. He is exceedingly annoyed at his brother. That's the words of the Torah. Ma'od. If you look in the Hebrew, ma'od, he's very angry. He's not just angry. There's angry, and then there's very angry. He's very angry at his brother. The English translation is not so accurate because it's annoyed, and it's really more, the Hebrew is more than annoyed. So what happens next? You guys know what happens next. Cain kills Abel. Okay, just for Steve, a dad joke. You ready? In honor of my daughter Mushka, because she told me the joke. Why did Cain kill Abel? Because he was able. So Cain kills his brother, which is again the whole story, which we talked about not too long ago. And the blood of Abel, of Hevel, is crying out from the ground. And the Lord says to Cain, what does the Lord say to Cain? Where is, I just close this, stop sharing. Where is Hevel, your brother? What happened? And obviously God knows where Hevel is. God's not clueless, but God's trying to start a conversation to give Cain a chance to repent, to confess what he did wrong. But instead of confessing, instead of admitting he did a mistake, what does he say? The Lord says, where is Abel, your brother? And he answers, I do not know. Hashomer achi anoichi. Am I my brother's keeper? Famous words. Famous words. The very first incident of two brothers. One, the first two brothers in history. One is exceedingly jealous of his brother. He gets angry. He kills him, destroys him, ends his life. And then when he's asked what happened, he said, am I my brother? What responsibility do I have to my brother? I'm not my brother's keeper. I have no ownership. I have no responsibility to my brother. He means nothing to me. If he's gone, that's his loss. Why are you looking at me? Brothers have no shared responsibility whatsoever. That is the beginning of the story. That's dot number one. I don't know who my brother is. I am not the keeper of my brother. One other joke about the gorilla in the zoo who's reading Darwin's Evolution. So the zookeeper sees him reading Darwin's Evolution. Says, what are you doing? So the ape says to the zookeeper, I'm reading the book to find out if I am my brother's keeper or my keeper's brother. Understand? Anyway, fine. So that's the first story in the Torah. When's the next time we find brothers in the Torah? Well, Noah didn't have any brothers. I mean, maybe he did, but we don't know his brothers' names. His sons, he has 3 sons. Where do we see a brotherly interaction between the sons? Not just that we know that he had 3 sons that happened to be brothers, but where do we see a brotherly interaction? Of course, you're cheating. You're looking at the text, but it's fine. You're allowed to cheat. It's okay. This is not a test. This is not a test, and you're not going to get, there's no tests, no report cards, no parent-teacher conferences. You're resourceful. Okay, very good. Very good. Shalom, everyone that's watching from all over the world. Sometimes family does rub it in your face. That could be. But let's talk about it. So the next time is Noah comes out of the ark. After the flood, Noah comes out of the ark, and what does he do? He plants a vineyard. He grows some grapes, and he gets drunk. He's lying in his tent drunk, and Ham, one of the sons, sees the nakedness of his father lying drunk in the tent. He goes and he castrates his father. Why? It doesn't say that in the Torah. But why does he do that? So the commentaries actually tell us that Ham did not want his father to have a 4th child. He was afraid that now after the flood was over and God had commanded them, Pru Revu, again, God had said in the Torah after the flood, what he told Adam and Eve, but he repeats it, a new time. Be fruitful, have children, That's the way we do it, guys. Have a lot of kids. You're not too old. You can still do it. Have a lot of kids. So Ham is very worried. He doesn't want to have to share the wealth of the world with the 4th brother. There's only 3 brothers. That means 1/3 of the world is his. If a 4th brother is born, he just lost 1/4 of the inheritance. Doesn't like that idea. So he actually castrates his father to ensure no more brothers will be born. Then he tells the brothers, look at our father, he's drunk. And the brothers, instead of joining along with Ham, instead they go in backwards. They cover their father with a blanket. It says they went backwards. They did not see the nakedness of their father. And after that, Noach wakes up in the morning. When he wakes up in the morning, what happens? So the Torah tells us, if you look in chapter 9, verse 24, and Noach awoke from his wine, and he knew what his small son had done to him. And he says, Cursed be Canaan, that's the son of Ham, will become the father of certain nations that will be cursed. I'll stop there. Cursed be Canaan, he shall be a slave among slaves to his brothers. And then he repeats, verse 26, and he says, blessed be the Lord, the God of Shem. Shem is the second of the three brothers. May Canaan be a slave to them. Verse 27, may God expand Yafis, who was the oldest of the three, and may he dwell in the tents of Shem, so that basically a union of, like we call it, to the Judeo-Christian values, the West and the family of Yafis and the family of Shem will live together, and may Canaan be a slave to them. So 3 times, in 3 verses, Noah says that this son that castrated me to prevent the birth of another brother, who now my other brothers will have more responsibility taking care of me, Ham and his family, his descendants, Canaan, will be a slave to his brothers. So here, what do we see? The second story of brotherly interaction, where Noah is cursing one of his sons to be a slave to the brothers. So no one's getting killed over here, but we see one son who behaved in a despicable way, who killed preemptively that another brother shouldn't be born. And as a result of that, he becomes a slave for all future generations to his family. So there's still this sense of, I don't feel responsibility to my brother, still a sense of, I want to destroy the birth of a brother, and therefore this complete segregation where one becomes a slave to the other two. Okay. What's the next story of brothers in the Torah? Anyone knows? Yeah, Bruce, you're looking ahead. What's the story? The next brothers we find in the Torah are the 2 sons of Abraham. Abraham has 2 sons. His first son is Ishmael. Very good. And if you're watching online, you can text. Hello, Alice. How are you? Hello, Andrea. Hello, Stephanie. If you're watching, you can tell us. Who are the 2 sons of Abraham? The oldest son, the father of the Arab world, is Ishmael, born to Hagar. And the younger son is Yitzchak, or Isaac, born to Sarah at her old age. They're half-brothers. They share the same father. They're 2 brothers. What's the story of you want to close the door, Michelle? Thank you. What's the story of these 2 brothers? So I'm going to read you a fascinating story. Yitzchak is born, and Ishmael, who was the older son, realizes very quickly that the blessing of Abraham is going to Isaac, not to him. Ishmael does not like that. And it's very clear, he's the son of the maid. Isaac is the miraculous son. Isaac is the one that Abraham is giving all of his attention to. Isaac is the son. There's a whole massive party when Isaac turned 2, and he was weaned. He had almost like a bar mitzvah party, and Ishmael didn't get that. He turned 13, he got a circumcision, you know what I'm saying? Maybe he got the bagels and cream cheese, that's the bris. And then by Yitzchak, it says he made a big party, a big feast, a big celebration. So Ishmael is quite jealous of his brother Isaac. And the Torah tells us, chapter 21, how Sarah saw the son of Hagar the Egyptian, whom she had born to Abraham, making merry. And what does it mean, making merry? So Rashi tells us 3 different sources in the Talmud. How merry can mean idolatry, merry can mean adultery, and merry can mean murder. And actually the rabbis tell us that what happened, why does Sarah send away Ishmael? She saw the 2 boys were playing in the field one day. And along comes Ishmael, and he starts shooting arrows at his brother Isaac, trying to kill him, by mistake. Yeah, there's been some stories like that where someone, by mistake, they killed their spouse. Like, it was an accident. She fell down the staircase, and then they find out, there's also a insurance policy or whatever. So Ishmael is deliberately trying to kill his brother. He can't do it openly. It's not like Cain trying to kill Abel, but he's trying to kill his brother. And Sarah sees. And what does Sarah do? Sarah says to Abraham, drive out this handmaid and her son, for the son of this handmaid shall not inherit with my son, with Isaac. So here Sarah is saying very clearly to Abraham that this son, your son, Isaac's half-brother, guess what? He may be your son, but he's no brother to my son. He will never," look at the words, this child, this handmaid and her son shall not inherit with my son, with Isaac. So he may be your son, but he's not a brother to Isaac. He will never inherit with Isaac. Drive him away, banish him from the home. They cannot live together. They cannot coexist. They cannot be together as one. Now, by the way, at that time, Abraham was very pained to have to do this. It was very much against the nature of Abraham to banish his son from his house. Avram had a home that was open on all sides. Avram had a home with a tent. It wasn't a home, it was a tent with a door on each direction. So wherever people came from were welcome into his house. He had tons of people coming to eat, strangers coming every day, feeding them, educating them, teaching them, inspiring them. And now his own son, he has to banish from the house. And he didn't want to do it. Until God himself comes to Abraham and says, listen to Sarah. What she says is right. What she says is true. You should do exactly what she says. And so he has no choice. And he does what his wife says. He sends away Yishmael, and the two are not able to exist in peace anymore. Now, I would be remiss if I didn't tell you that at the end of their lives, Yishmael and Yitzchak do have some form of a reconciliation at the funeral. At the funeral. At the funeral of Abraham, it says that Yitzchak and Yishmael came to bury him. Yitzchak is younger than Yishmael, and yet the Torah puts Yitzchak before Yishmael. And from here, the rabbis infer that Yishmael, at that point in his life, I guess he matured, he recognized that Yitzchak is the true heir of his father, and he allowed Yitzchak the proper respect and the proper honor and dignity to go before him in the funeral procession. But first of all, it's not written in the text of the Torah. That's something we infer. And more importantly, that only happened to the death of Abraham. How many stories of family, sibling rivalries do we know where people don't talk to each other? Until the funeral. Right? Until the funeral. Sadly, at the funeral, they both got to show up at the same funeral. Now, I have done funerals where there was family, siblings that were not talking to each other even at the funeral. Star of David, they have two rows, thank God, right? They have they have two different aisles of chairs, and some of the children were sitting in this aisle, and some were sitting in that aisle, and they did not talk to each other the entire time. It was thank God I've never had like a shouting match or a fight during the funeral. Thank God. I once had afterwards, where I had before, had in the hospital room with a dead person where there was a fight. I wasn't with a dead person, but at a funeral, I've never had that, thank God. But they were literally, they went the entire funeral procession, everything, without getting close to each other. You know what I'm saying? There's whatever. And we managed to do a fairly dignified, honorable funeral that no one, if you didn't know, you didn't know. Everyone was happy, everyone felt respected, everyone felt validated and felt there. So you have that. But generally speaking, when it comes to funeral, and family that haven't spoken in years and years, they reunite, they reconnect. And so during the lifetime, Sarah says, as Prima is saying, the protective mother of she, but she was right. God says that she's right. So Yitzchak, Isaac, and Yishmael are not able to live together. There's no coexistence. Now, Yishmael, if you're following this journey over here, Yishmael does not murder his brother. Although he wants to, he tries to, but there's no ability to coexist, to get along, until the death. And then we are told that Yishmael he was dignified enough to let Yitzchak go before him. But they led two very different lives, two different places, two different ways. Okay. So far, the story is not good. The evolution of brotherhood up until this point has been one epic failure after another epic failure. Then we come to the story in this week's Torah reading, which is the story of the next two brothers in history. Who are the next two brothers in history? Yaakov and Esau, or Esau, right? Jacob and Esau, Yaakov and Esau. These are not just half brothers. These are not just full brothers. These are twins. Not identical twins, but they're twins. Twins born, I don't know how many seconds apart. Twins who were born to fight each other from the moment they were born, during the delivery, even before delivery. During pregnancy, they were fighting in utero. And so it's such an intense painful pregnancy that Rivka, that had been barren for 20 years, waiting for a child, says, "This is what I was praying for. I wish I never got it." Until she finds out she has 2 kids inside her. At the moment of birth, Yaakov is trying to get out, and Esav pushes his way in front of him. Esav gets out. He's holding onto the heel. Can you imagine what kind of painful delivery that was? Yeah.
I was thinking after Shabbos, Yitzhak is the only one that didn't have many wives, or did we just not know of it?
Yitzchak only had 1 wife. Yitzchak led a very holy, pure lifestyle. And 1 wife never left Israel.
And
Correct.
even after 20 years, the wife didn't give the hand.
Correct. Correct. I don't know if correct. Okay. So what happens? You all know the story. One day, we talked about it last week's Torah reading. Yitzchak wants to give a blessing to his older son, Esav. Rivka finds out, and Rivka tells her other son, Yaakov, dress up in the clothing of your brother, put on his clothing, put on the thing. We talked about this last week, right? And he goes to get the blessings. After he gets the blessings, what happens? Esav walks into his father's room. His father says, "Sorry, son, I've already given away the blessings to your brother Yaakov. Once he is blessed, he will remain blessed. He's the one that gets the blessings. My only blessing to you is that when he sins, then he'll have an opportunity." At that moment, Esav is, pissed is, I guess, I don't know if that's the word that the rabbi should say, but yeah. The Torah says, chapter 27, verse 41, and Esav hated Jacob. He hates him. He's pretty angry because of the blessing that his father had blessed him. And Esav says to himself, "The days of mourning for my father draw near. I will then kill my brother Jacob." Okay, the story is repeating itself. One brother that wants to kill his other brother. It's the same story of Cain and Abel, same story of Ham with his unborn brother, same story with Yitzchak and Yishmael. And here too, Esav says, I hate this guy so much, let me just wait for my father to croak so I can go and kill this ... brother of mine. Yeah, he can't wait. Now, what happens? You know what happens? Rivka tells her son, she's a prophetess, Rivka. She knows what's in her son's heart. She tells Yaakov, on the way to my brother Lavan, go get married over there. When things come down, I'll tell you to come home. And he goes to Lavan, he gets married, and he has kids, and he builds a family, and he makes a lot of money. And after 20 years, Rivka sends her maid, Devorah, interesting character. We don't know much about her. Actually, try researching her to do a club. We really don't know a lot about her. Her name is Devorah. She goes to get Yaakov. Yaakov takes his time coming back. He's coming back. On the way back, this is this week's Torah reading. This is how the Torah reading of this week starts out. What happens? Well, before he meets Esav, he hears that Esav, his brother, is coming with an army of 400 men to kill him. And when Yaakov hears that Esav, his brother, is still nursing this tremendous hatred in his heart, that he's ready to go and kill him, what does Yaakov do? What does he do? Anyone? He does 3 things. So you can get 3 things right. Yes, very good. He sends a huge gift of herds and cattle, a whole description of all the different sheep and animals, hundreds and hundreds of animals, each one with its own shepherd. And he spaces out the shepherds. It's like, packaging. You gotta make something look much bigger than it is. So he tells the shepherds to leave space in between the different herds to make it look like, as far as the eye can see. As far as the eye can see is cattle and sheep and donkeys and ewes and whatever that are being given by Yaakov to his brother Esav. Number 2, he prays to God for protection. And number 3, anyone knows number 3? I'm looking at the comments. The 3rd thing he does? He divides the camp into half to prepare for a war. And he says that Esav will attack me, my camp, the rest will escape, and he prepares a battle plan how to fight if he needs to. But his first approach is to try and make peace. So Esav gets all of these, does not apologize. He doesn't apologize because nothing to apologize for. The blessings were actually his. Yaakov is actually truly the firstborn because he bought it from Esav. But he wants to, even though he was entitled to it and he bought it, something very important. I should just clarify this. Thank you, Prima, for making the comment you made. Yaakov bought the rights of the firstborn inheritance from Esav for a pot of lentil beans. So it belonged to Yaakov legally by acquisition. it also belonged to Yaakov because in truth, the firstborn is not the one that comes out first, but should be the one that's conceived first. Rashi gives an example, you have, let's say, two tennis balls in like a narrow tube. Which ball comes out first? The one that went in the second. Yaakov was conceived first. He came out second because Esau was blocking the birth canal because he came second. But Yaakov was truly the firstborn. Anyway, so Yaakov has nothing to apologize for, but Yaakov doesn't want his brother to be upset at him. Yaakov is actually pained, it says in the Torah. He's feeling distressed, not that he would die, but that he would have to kill. He was afraid. Golda Meir says a very famous statement. I don't know if it's true or not, if it's an authentic Jewish value. But what she says is very profound. Golda Meir said that we can forgive the Arabs for killing our children, but we can never forgive the Arabs for making us kill their children. Understand? So Yaakov is distressed and pained, knowing that if Esau is going to fight, he's going to have to fight. And if he has to fight, he'll have to kill. And that bothers him, that pains him. So Yaakov is hoping to not have to fight. So he sends this huge, huge gift of hundreds and hundreds of animals to his brother. And then what happens? Finally, the moment of truth arrives. The Torah tells us, if you look in chapter 33, finally, Yaakov sees his brother approaching. What happens? Verse number 3, he went ahead of them and he prostrated himself to the ground 7 times until he came close to his brother. Yaakov goes out of his way to humble himself before his brother, to prostrate, to bow down to the ground 7 times, to give his brother, the respect and the honor that he felt he needed. And after he bows down 7 times, how does Esau respond? Verse number 4. And Esau ran toward him and embraced him, and he fell on his neck and kissed him, and they wept. Beautiful. Beautiful. Here is the first time that we find reconciliation. In this week's Torah reading is the first time we find where 2 brothers can get over their differences, can get over the jealousy and the hatred and all the resentment of many, many years before, beginning with Yaakov humbling himself, sending money, giving of his own money, his possessions, bowing down to his brother. And as a result of that, the army that Esau had come with, the 400 men that Esau had come with, they leave, and Esau hugs and kisses and embraces, and as the Torah says, they fall on each other's necks and they wept. They wept. A moment we have yet to ever experience in the Torah up until chapter 33, until this week's Torah reading. A moment of brothers getting along. Sounds beautiful, right? But this is not it. This ain't it, my friend. You know why this is not it? Despite the fact that it's so beautiful that Yaakov can humble himself, to allow his brother to feel a sense of, like his ego is assuaged, like a sense of vindication of some sorts, to allow for them to get over the hurt feelings of the blessings that Yaakov took, and to be able to reconcile and to make up and to be friends again. They don't live happily ever after. They hug, they kiss. Esau says to his brother, who are all the gifts that you sent me? And Yaakov says, it's a gift to you, my master, please take it. Esau says, I'm very wealthy, I have a lot. And Yaakov says, I have everything I need. Please, I'm asking you as a sign of my love for you, my respect for you, please take all the gifts that I have given to you. And Esau agrees to take all the gifts. He asks, who are these? These are the children God gave me. And then Esau is feeling so in love with his brother. He's feeling so enamored with his brother's generosity and kindness to him. Verse number 12, Esau says to his brother, he says to him, travel, Nisa v'nelecha. Let us travel and we together will go, and I will go alongside you. So Esau is saying to his brother Jacob, I want to be with you. You've inspired me. You've bought me clothes. You've bowed down before me, given me gifts, and you've shown like we can live happily ever after, live in peace and in oneness. Let us go together. You choose where we're going to go. You choose the pace. I will go with you. Not you come with me. Not you do what I want. I will go with you wherever you go. You think Yaakov likes that idea? Jacob does not like that idea. Jacob knows that this is not going to end. Sometimes brothers are loving from the other side of the country. If you live in California, not in Florida, we can get along, right? If you live in Hawaii, even that might be too close, same country. If you live in Australia, and I live in Florida, then we could be. So he says to him, this is Jacob says to Esau, my master knows that the children are tender, and the flocks and the cattle which are raising their young depend on me. And if they overdrive them one day, all the flocks will die. Meaning I can't travel as fast as you. I'm traveling with sheep and with babies and with car seats and with strollers. And this one needs to take a nap in the middle of the day. Everyone traveling with kids? I've done it. So let me tell you. This one needs a nap. This one needs a diaper. This one needs a... Plus, I never took animals with me. Baruch Hashem. Imagine the pet needs to go for a walk, and then I have sheep, and I have flocks, and I have cattle, and the dogs need to go out, and the kids need to go, and this is before they had for a wife, they need to do their makeup, they need to whatever. It's flat time, and then the wives. I'm going. I'm ready in 1 minute. I'm ready to go. They're not even dressed yet. I'm ready to go. Still finding their socks and their shoes and their tights and their keys and their phone is lost, but they're ready to go. Let's go. Where's my phone again? So Yaakov says to Esau, I can't go so fast. It's going to take too long. It's going to be difficult. It's going to be painful. The sheep will die. One day we go too fast. So therefore, here's my suggestion, says Yaakov. Now let my master go ahead before his servant, and I will move at my own slow pace, according to the pace of the work that is before me, according to the pace of the children, until I come to my master, to Seir. Seir is the mountain that belongs to Esau. It's far north, way north of Israel. They're coming from down south. So he says not south actually, I take that back. He's coming from Haran actually, so but it's not close. Seir's north. He's going down to the Jordan, coming. So he says, you go to Mount Seir, and I'll catch up to you over there. I'll go to your place. Meaning you go, don't come to me. Don't go to the land of Israel, which is my territory. You go to your territory, and I'll come to you in your territory over there. Now, he was never planning on going to Seir, just so you know. He was planning on going to Israel. That's where his father was. That's where his family is, and that's where he was told by God to go. So he has no intention of going to Seir, none whatsoever. So they said, if you go to Seir, I'm going slowly. I'll catch up soon.
Is Isaac still alive?
No. They're actually... Yeah. Rivka is not alive. Isaac is still alive. Isaac is absolutely alive because he's alive even after Joseph is sold as a slave. But Rivka passes away on the journeys when Rivka, it's at this time when Yaakov was on the way back home. Rivka called his son to come back. I'll just stop for a second just to put into context. Rivka was old. And I don't know if she knew that she was dying or not, but when she sent a messenger, Devorah, to go tell Yaakov to come home, she hadn't seen her grandkids. She hadn't seen Yaakov in 20 years. She hadn't seen the grandkids. And Yaakov doesn't make it home before she dies. Yaakov stops on the way. She passes away. So the Torah tells us that he heard that Devorah died and he mourned on the side of the road. It's actually the Torah is hiding the death of Rivka. The Torah doesn't say explicitly that Rivka died, but it's a hint to us that Rivka died and Rivka never saw the family of Yaakov, seemingly unless he traveled to Lavan, which could be. But as far as we know in the Torah, for sure, they never came to Israel. Her daughter-in-laws, her grandkids, the family, she never got to see them. She passes away before he makes it all the way back to Israel, on the way. But anyway, the point is that Yaakov is heading towards his family in Israel. That's where he's going. He tells his brother, you go to Seir. That's your land, outside of Israel. You go there. Seir is actually, if I'm not mistaken, actually west. It's actually east. Seir, I'm thinking about now, it's north of Jordan, but it's on Jordan. Well, I'm not sure. Anyway, it doesn't make a difference. So thereupon Esau said, let me leave with you some of the people who are with me. Okay. You want to go slowly, that's fine. I'll leave some messengers of mine with you to help you find the way. In case you get lost, I'll leave some people to help. And maybe Esau suspected that Yaakov wasn't really planning on going all the way to Seir. And what does he respond? Yaakov responds to his brother, why did you do that? May I find favor in my master's eyes. Just leave me alone. Well, may I find favor in my master's eyes. Luz up. We say in Yiddish, leave me. I'll come slowly. You take your man. You go to Seir. Hopefully you love me. I'll see you again at the funeral. And that's basically what happens. That's the end of the chapter. That's the end of the story. Esav takes all of his men going to Seir, waiting for Yaakov to catch up to him. Yaakov never catches up. Yaakov goes to Israel, and they live in peace in that they've reconciled. They've, so to say, made up. They've hugged and kissed. There's no longer a war between them, but they don't live near each other. They don't live together. They don't really live happily ever after. So it's a powerful story. It's a tremendous shift in the evolution of brotherhood, where brothers can finally get over their hatred and get over their jealousy and hug and kiss and reconcile, but there's still no intimate bond where two brothers can say, let us live together as one and care for each other and share with each other and be with each other. That is not going to happen. Okay. So far, we're following a story, right? Okay, my friends, what's the next story of brothers? Joseph and his brothers. You all know that story, huh? How does that one go? Pretty wicked. So Joseph has some dreams. Well, first, Joseph gets a beautiful coat from his father. I didn't actually copy the text here, but you all know the story. What does it say about the brothers? They were jealous of their father's coat. They were jealous. Understandably so. And then what happens? Joseph has this dream of, all these brothers that are bundling their bundles of wheat in the field. And then he tells his brothers, I saw a dream and your bundles of wheat were bowing down to my bundle of wheat. That's a great dream to tell your brothers that are jealous of you. Went over really, really well. They got very upset and they were jealous and they were angry when they heard that. And then there's another dream. Oh, there were stars and the moon. There were 11 stars and the sun and the moon. Our parents, they were all bowing down to me. Right? And now Yaakov is trying to downplay this. Because Yaakov can see how the brothers are getting upset. And Yaakov knows what sibling rivalry looks like. He's keeping it in his mind, but he's trying to downplay it. And what happens? One day, the brothers went out to shepherd the sheep. Yaakov says to Yosef, go check on the brothers, see what's up with them. Yosef goes to find them. Actually, he says, he's searching. I should have put this in the text too. He says to the angel, I'm looking for my brothers. You know where they are. He says, you're looking for your brothers. They left you as brothers. They're not looking for a brotherhood. I should have put the text in there. It's a text that Yosef is looking. And he says, my brothers, I'm searching for them. And the angel that was dressed like a man in Doisan said they went to Doisan. They went away from brotherhood. Joseph still goes. And what happens? One brother says to the other, oh, look, here's a dreamer coming. Let's see what happens to his dreams. Let us kill him. Another brother says, don't kill him. This is just getting too long. I did put all the text, so we all know the story. But the other brother says, don't kill him. Let's throw him in the pit instead. They throw him in the pit, and then they sell him as a slave to make some money. And Joseph ends up as a prince in Egypt. There's a famine in the land. Joseph is the viceroy, checking everyone coming into the country through the immigration records. It wasn't like an open border. You had to actually go through customs. And he comes through. Joseph sees that his brothers are coming. He calls them all into his palace. He accuses them of being spies, right? He says, you're all spies. He keeps one brother as a collateral, so to say, a hostage. Shimon, he sends the other brothers back. They have to bring back Binyamin. Finally, they bring back Binyamin. He plants his cup in the sack of Benjamin as if Benjamin has stolen his magical silver goblet. He then says, I'm going to keep Benjamin as a slave. And finally, the other brothers stand up for their brother. And for the first time, you see a brother willing to risk his life for a brother. And Yehuda comes before Joseph and says, don't take him as a slave. He's young. He's useless. Instead, take me instead. Although you don't find the words clearly in the text of the Bible where he says, take me instead of my brother, but those are the words he's saying. And Yehuda is saying, take me instead of my brother. My father will die. I am willing to take the place of my brother. At that moment, here we come to the most powerful text, the most powerful verses, emotional verses not just of more than just reconciliation. It's the moment when Yosef reveals himself to his brothers. Chapter 45. Again, there's a lot of verses here. It's like I could copy the whole chapter. Joseph says, I am Joseph. And he says to his brothers, please come closer to me. And they drew closer. And he said, pay attention to the words, I am Yosef, your brother. Ani Yosef Acheichem. I am your brother Joseph, whom you sold into Egypt. But do not be sad. Don't let it trouble you. That you sold me here for us to preserve life that God sent me before you. So he's comforting them. And he's showing them that even though you tried to behave to me not like a brother, even though you tried to behave to me like strangers who were willing to kill their own brother, to sell me into slavery, etc., you should know I am Yosef, your brother. I am going to behave to you like brothers. And then they're shocked in the beginning, and then what happens, verse 15? He kissed all his brothers, and he wept over them, and afterwards his brothers spoke with him. They become brothers. So much so, the next verse says that the voice was heard in Pharaoh's house saying, Joseph's brothers have come. And it pleased Pharaoh and his servants. So here we see something tremendously powerful and tremendously beautiful. What happened? Yehuda was willing to stand up for his brother. He was willing to sacrifice from himself for his brother. And because Judah was willing to sacrifice for his brother, they proved they were worthy of Joseph revealing himself. And Joseph doesn't just say, I'm your brother, and it's okay. He comforts them. He consoles them. He repeats and reiterates to them, I am Yosef, Acheichem, I am Yosef, your brother. I am with you. I will take care of you. He then tells them, go back, bring our father, come to Egypt. Not like Yaakov told his brothers, go to Seir, and I'll see you in a little bit. Yosef says to them, go, come, bring your family, bring your kids, bring your cattle, bring everything you have. Bring it to the land of Goshen. I will personally take responsibility to make sure you have a place to live. I will personally take responsibility to make sure you have food to eat. Everything you need, I will make sure you have it. This is an amazing story. This is not just a reconciliation where they hug and kiss and then go on their separate ways. This is where Yosef is able to transcend the jealousness, the anger, the hatred that had been so strong before, and to totally ignore it as if it never happened, and to say, despite what you did, I have no ill will in my heart. Even though you acted to me not like a brother, in my heart, you are my brothers. In my heart, there's love for you. In my heart, I don't feel angry at you. This is a beautiful story. Very, very powerful. Very powerful. Yosef is truly acting the way a brother should act, despite what was done to him. And he wasn't just jealous because he was jealous. He had legitimate reason to be upset. They really did try to kill him. They really did sell him into slavery. They really did abandon him. He had every single justification to be, suffering with trauma, need therapy and all that stuff. And instead, he says, my heart is like a brother to you. Come to Egypt. I will feed you. I will provide for you. I will take care of you. Everything you need for you and your families, I will give you. It's beautiful. We think that this is true brotherhood. But even this story of brotherhood is not the ultimate. I mean, we're clearly seeing, if you're following this journey of steps, if you're following this evolution, Yaakov and Esav are able to make up, but they can't live together. Here, with the next generation of brothers, also suffer with jealousy, also suffer with this tremendous hate and friction in the beginning of their younger years, but as they grow and mature, Yosef, both of them, Yehuda also, it's not only Yosef, Yehuda and Yosef, the leaders, prove that they're able to overcome their own natural feelings and their own selves, to put their brothers above them, to care for their brothers, to be there for their brothers, and to be able to live together. However, it's not the ultimate. Why not? Yosef was still a king, and they were still dependent upon the mercy of Yosef. And despite the fact that Yosef said, I will take care of you and I will feed you, Yosef didn't actually live together with his brothers. He lived in the palace, in the capital of Egypt, and they lived in the pastures in a place called Goshen. They were a distance of a few days' journey. They wasn't close, meaning Yosef lived in wherever the capital city of Egypt was. I don't know what it was called. Pison, Ramses, I don't know if those were in the capital. He lived in the capital. They lived in Goshen. It was a place away where the sheep were. It was a place of cattle. It was not the same area. They lived far away. And that's where the brothers lived, in Goshen. Somewhere in the countryside, so to say. Yosef was living in Manhattan, and they were living, in the suburbs. They're living somewhere in, I don't know, in Pennsylvania, where the farmland is. Where Pennsylvania. Where were you going to this week? Wherever the farmland is. They did. I'm just saying the fact is, it wasn't a punishment, but the fact is they still weren't living together. Yosef is the guy in charge. He has the money. He's paying for all their bills. It's very beautiful. Not to knock it. But if we're going on the evolution of how we need to feel for our brothers, the sense of ownership and responsibility we need to have, it goes much more than just Yosef caring for his brothers, which is why when Yaakov passes away, what happens? What happens when Yaakov passes away? The brothers see it, they get nervous. You're right. They see that their brother is going back from the funeral. He stops by the pit where they had sold him. And they see that the brother is a little bit cold, a little bit not, and they think that now their brother's waiting for the opportunity to get revenge for everything that they had done to him so many years earlier. He was like Esau said, when my father dies, I'll get back at Yaakov. They were afraid this would happen. Now, meaning they're living peacefully, like you have brothers, they get together for Thanksgiving, they get together for Passover, but behind their backs, they, that nudnik, and they'll still have Pesach Seder together. But there's an underlying current of friction. It's below the surface. It's under the under the carpet, under the rug. But it's still there. And that's why, again, I'm just bringing a few verses. They send messengers. After the funeral, chapter 49, the brothers send messengers to their brother with a made-up message. And they said that your father said to tell you that after he passes away, that you should still be nice to us and to be good to us and not to be angry at us. And after the messengers come, verse 15, it's right here. Joseph's brother saw that the father died, so perhaps Joseph will hate us. Meaning they felt something there. So what happens, the brothers came, verse 18, his brothers also went and fell before him, and they said, behold, we are your slaves. And then he also says to them, no, don't worry, I'm not going to do anything to you, don't worry. But it actually says in the commentaries that Yosef didn't ever eat together with his brothers after that. Meaning, he took care of them, he still sent them food, he still paid for he still paid the bills, but they didn't eat together. So, it's an amazing story of reconciliation. Amazing. But on the evolution of where we need to be today, in the sense of ownership, and sense of care and love for our brothers, this is not the end of the story. We still have more brothers to talk about. Who are the next brothers in the Bible? I know I'm moving fast, it's getting late, but this is a fascinating journey so far. Fascinating. And you know all these stories, but now you're putting it together into a sequence, and you see an evolution. So let's keep on going. We have two more stories to talk about tonight. Two more sets of brothers in the Bible. The next brothers we hear about are the two sons of Joseph, exactly. Two sons of Joseph, Ephraim and Manasseh. Where do we see the story of Ephraim and Manasseh? What's the story there? So Joseph gets the message that his father is on his deathbed. Jacob is on his deathbed, he's going to soon die. So Joseph, being the viceroy, comes and brings his two sons that were born in Egypt, Ephraim and Manasseh, to come and say farewell, to say goodbye to their grandfather and get a blessing. They come, and what happens when they come? Let's read the text, and this is an interesting text, my friends. So it's a fascinating story that deserves a lot of discussion, but we're just going to go to the point that we need to talk about right now. They come, and Joseph puts the two sons in front of his father. The oldest son, Ephraim, at the right hand, on the left side, in the right hand of his father, and the younger son, Manasseh. So the oldest son of Manasseh on the right side, and the younger son Ephraim on the left side. And then verse 17, Joseph saw that his father was placing his right hand on Ephraim. Ephraim is the younger child, meaning his father switched his hands. His father switched his hand, so the right hand, which is the greater hand, instead of going on the head of the older son, which was Manasseh, he switches his hand, that his right hand goes on the head of the younger son, Ephraim. And this displeases Yosef, and we understand why it displeases Yosef. The last thing Yosef wants to see is sibling rivalry. He was a victim of his father Yaakov showing favoritism to him over his brothers. It didn't end too well for Yosef. So the last thing that Yosef wants to see his father do is once again put one brother on the pedestal over the other. So quickly, he held up his father's hand to remove it from upon Ephraim's head to place it on Menashe's head, the older son. And Joseph says to his father, not so, father. Please, please, don't repeat the mistakes of our childhood. Don't do this again. Don't make the younger child more important than the older. Not so, father. For this one is the firstborn. Put your right hand on his head. But his father refused. His father does not listen. And Jacob says to his son Joseph, I know, my son, I know. He too will become a people, and he too will be great. Talking about the older son Manasseh, he'll be great. But his younger brother, the younger brother, he's going to be the doctor in the family. He will truly become great. He will be greater than Manasseh, and his children's fame will fill the nation, referring to Joshua, who will be a descendant of the younger son of Ephraim. Yeshua will be fighting a war. We learned it recently in the morning minyan, and he'll stop the sun. It's a long story. We don't have the time for it right now, but in like 30 seconds, the Jewish people led by Joshua are fighting against the enemy by a place called Givon. And the enemy's running away. They don't know the territory, and they're going to hide in their cave. They were out of the city. They're going to run back to their fortified cities if it got dark. And so Yoshua says to the son, Shemesh begivain doim. Son in Givain, stop, be silent. Stop praising God, stop bowing down to God, stop. And Joshua was able to stop the sun from setting. As a result of that, the daylight continued, the sun didn't set, and they were able to find and to chase and to conquer all of the enemies and to kill them before they were able to hide in the caves and go back to their fortified cities, where they'd be much harder to conquer them and fight them. And so they were able to kill them all in the field, on the battlefield, before they ran away. So because the son of Ephraim will be the one to stop the sun, and the whole world will hear the story, the sun stopped. You know what I'm saying? It was front page news. Everyone had the story that Yeshua, son of Ephraim, grandson, whatever, the great grandson, he stopped the sun from setting. Therefore, Ephraim will be even greater than Manasseh. So that's why I'm putting my right hand to bless the younger son, Ephraim. This is what Jacob says in front of the two boys. In front of Ephraim and Manasseh. They're right there in front of him. He has his hands on the, as they're there. He also says, no, don't do that. Jacob says, I know. Don't worry. He's going to be greater. The younger son, he will be greater than his older brother. And what happens next? What happens next? How do these brothers react? What does Ephraim say? What does Manasseh say? What does Manasseh do when he sees how his brother is getting greater honor than him? You know what happens next?
Or jealousy? No, there's no jealousy there, because it was her sons that way.
You know what happens next? Nothing. There's no jealousy. There's no sibling rivalry. There's no sense of, I need to prove that I'm greater than you. There's no sense of, how dare my younger brother be better than me. Ephraim is happy. Manasseh is happy. They each are happy. They continue to live together as brothers. That's one of the reasons I've shared. One of the reasons why we give the blessing. I've shared this before. Very good, Marsha. One of my prize students over here remembers. One of the reasons why we give the blessing to our children, be like Ephraim and Manasseh, not to be like Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Because they had a sibling rivalry. We give our children the blessing to be like the first kids in history that didn't fight. For anyone who has kids that have fought at home, you know why that's a good blessing, right? The first kids in history, the first brothers that weren't jealous. Joseph and his brothers have a beautiful reconciliation. They hug, they kiss. But that was after many years of jealousy and of fighting and of trying to kill their brother and of hiding, lying about their brother. Menashe is older. And Menashe hears his brother being praised, his younger brother. And he hears his younger brother will be greater than him. And yet, how does he respond? He doesn't. There's no desire to prove I'm greater than you. There's no jealousy. There's no anger. There's no resentment. They remain happily ever after, living together with no hatred or jealousy or discontent in their hearts whatsoever. Amazing.
What year is this?
In the future. What year is this? It's when the Jews were leaving Egypt. See, the Jews left Egypt. Okay, the Jews. It's about the year 2200 and 288, around 2,300 after creation. Now we're in 5780, so go back, 3,700 years ago, approximately. I'm not so good at math, approximately. Okay. Whoever's enjoying, Carmen, I'm glad you're enjoying, but we're not done yet. We're not done yet. Early, we're not done yet. They're saying excellent class, Baruch Hashem. I'm not finished. Even though it's after 9 o'clock. If you want to go home, you can go. You're watching at home, you can go home. We're not done. True, this is an amazing evolution. Look how far we've gone. Right? Look how far we've gone from brothers that kill each other, from Cain and Abel that were killing each other over jealousy, to Ephraim and Manasseh that are totally happy to live together, even though one will be greater than the other. But that's not the last story of brothers. There's one more set of brothers in the Torah. Who's the very last set of brothers? Who's, by the way, just a word from our sponsor, since we are over time. Don't forget, we are in the middle of our end of the year matching campaign. Before you go away, if you want to hear the last story, you got to donate. Charity.com/proud. CHR with a D, yeah. Charity with a D, CHARIDY.com/proud. You can donate, /make a difference. And now the last story. Even though I don't think anyone donated, but I can't see because I'm not looking at the phone. Okay, what's the last story? The last brothers? Exactly. Moshe and Aaron. Where do we find the interaction of Moshe and Aaron? So Aaron is older than his brother Moshe. Okay, Aaron is a prophet of God. He was the prophet in Egypt. He was the elder, so to say, who the Jews spoke to and listened to when Moses was busy hiding in Midian. Moses ran away. Moses killed an Egyptian taskmaster. He had to run away. He was hiding, married Zipporah. He's not even in Egypt. One day, God hears the cry of the Jewish people. He says, time to send Moses to save the Jewish people. So one day, Moses is walking with the sheep, and what does he see? Burning bush. Or rather, a bush that's burning, but it's not being consumed. Moshe turns, and God appears to him. Another one of the fascinating conversations and stories of the Torah. So back and forth between Moses and God. We've talked about this, where God wants Moshe to go redeem the Jewish people, and Moses is not interested. Finally, Moshe says to God, after all the documents back and forth that I'm not going to repeat right now, the final argument of Moshe is he says to God, you know what, God? What are you wasting your time with me? You already have another messenger. Aaron, shlach nabiyat tishlach. Just send the other messenger. Send the messenger that you always send. Send Aaron. At that moment, verse 14, chapter 4, the Lord's wrath was kindled against Moses. And he said, is it not Aaron, your brother the Levite? I know that Aaron is. You don't think I know who Aaron is? I speak to Aaron. I know about Aaron. I know that he will surely speak. And behold, he is coming forth toward you. Pay attention, my friends. And when he sees you, what does it say? He will rejoice in his heart. When he sees you, v'samach v'liboy, his heart will rejoice that you have been chosen to be God's messenger. He will be happy that you are the one chosen to be the anointed one to redeem the Jewish people. And that gets better, verse 15. You shall speak to him. God saying to Moses, you will speak to your brother Aaron, and you shall put the words into his mouth, and I will be with your mouth and with his mouth. I will instruct you both what you shall do, so I'll be with both of you, but there will be a difference. He will speak for you to the people, and it will be that he will be your speaker, and you will be his leader. God is saying clearly, you, Moses, will be the leader, and he will be the speaker. He'll be the agent. He'll be the spokesman. He'll be the president, and he'll be the press secretary. Right? I mean, it's clearly not the same thing. One guy is the one making decisions, one guy's the one in charge, and one guy is the speaker. But even though he's going to lose his position as the chief prophet of the Jewish people, when he sees you, he will rejoice in his heart. This is a whole new level of love between brothers. This is a whole new level. Not just Ephraim and Menashe, who got along despite the reason why they could be jealous, but they were both happy, accepted each other, respected each other, were fine with each other being different. Aaron is willing to serve his brother, to be there for his brother, to care for his brother, to be the assistant of his brother, and he will be rejoicing in his heart. He will fargin sich, as I said at the beginning. He'll be happy for his brother. I was going to share a story, but I think I'm going to have to leave it because it's too late. But this, my friends, is the evolution of the Jewish people. The evolution of brotherhood. The evolution started with Cain and Abel. And I'll go quickly through it. Going to the brothers, Noach's sons, who Ham was cursed to be a slave to his brothers. To Yitzchak, who was banished, who couldn't live in the same place as his brother. Yishmael, who couldn't live next to his brother Yitzchak. To Yaakov and Esav, who do reconcile, who do make up, because Yaakov humbles himself, but they have to still live far apart from each other. To the brothers that also fight, but learn to not only make up, but to live together. To Ephraim and Menashe that learn to not fight with each other. To the brothers Moshe and Aaron that learn to love each other and care for each other, and take ownership and responsibility for each other. And this, my friends, is a lesson for us. We are at the end of the story. We need to be brothers like Aaron was a brother. We need to be brothers or sisters that love each other. We don't just say, I love you, but I can't stand you. I love you and I'm happy for you. I love you, I'm willing to take care of you. I love you, I'm willing to be there for you, whatever it takes, to serve you, to help you, and I'll do it with a sincere happiness, a sincere joy I can help you. And by the way, that's a perfect intro to supporting your brothers. Just saying, if you wanted to support charity.com/proud, because we have to be there for each other. Thank you very much. God should bless each and every one of you. Next week will be a Hanukkah class. Next 2 weeks will be a Hanukkah class. But I couldn't do 3 weeks. No, I told you I was thinking, but I couldn't pull it. I didn't find out. I looked into it. I tried. This is beautiful. I think that this is. I personally was inspired by.
Such a perspective that.
Correct. It's all right there in the Bible, but until you put those dots together and see that evolution, it's a beautiful story. And my friends, thank you, Art. Thank you, Prima. Thank you, Stephanie, watching on all different things. You're all over, Stephanie. Wow, you're pretty popular. Orly Laila Tov. Thank you, Andrea. Thank you all. We appreciate you. And if you appreciate the classes, again, please do make a donation to keep us going, to help us keep on giving the ability to identify proudly and strongly and lovingly. God bless you all. Thank you, Gail. Thank you for your donation earlier. Thank you, Art. Again, charity.com/proud. Glad you all enjoyed. Good night, Kim. Good night, Prima. See you, God willing, next week with more stories. Yes, next Monday, more stories. With Hashem. Okay.